If you're researching Cape Coral and something feels a little off, like the prices are almost too good to be true, you're not wrong to wonder about that. There are real reasons this market is more affordable than the rest of coastal Florida. Some of those reasons are actually good news. One of them you absolutely need to understand before you buy here. I'm Barry Cessna, your Cape Coral waterfront realtor, and I'm going to give you the real answer today. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first, let's put some numbers on the table. The median home price in Cape Coral right now is around $385,000. In Naples, 40 miles down the road, the median is closer to $850,000. Sarasota runs $668,000, and Miami is in a different planet entirely. Now, here is the part that really gets people's attention. A waterfront home here on a canal with a dock and a pool runs somewhere in the $500,000 to $700,000 range, depending on the type of home and water access you have. Now, that same lifestyle in Naples starts at 1.2 to 1.5 million. In Sarasota, same story. So if you are sitting in Chicago, Pittsburgh, or Minneapolis right now, looking at these numbers and thinking something doesn't quite add up, I get it. So let me explain what is actually going on. There are 4 reasons Cape Coral is priced the way it is. And understanding all 4 of them is what separates a buyer who makes a smart decision from one who either overpays or walks away from something that was actually a good opportunity. All right, reason number 1, Cape Coral was built differently than almost any other city in America. In 1957, 2 brothers from Baltimore named Leonard and Jack Rosen flew over a flat, empty peninsula across the Caloosahatchee River from Fort Myers. They saw 103 square miles of raw land. They bought it for just $678,000 and they started building a city from scratch. They dug over 400 miles of canals. They used the excavated fill to raise the lots. They laid out a grid of streets and then they marketed it nationally and aggressively. Ads in newspapers, TV spots, chartered planes flying potential buyers down to see it in person. The pitch was waterfront living for everyday families, not just the wealthy. That history matters because of what it left behind. Cape Coral is the largest city between Tampa and Miami, both in size of population and land area, 120 square miles. And unlike Naples or Fort Myers Beach, it still has significant undeveloped land inside the city limits. That is what keeps prices in check. When land is scarce, prices go up. That is just how it works. Naples is largely built out. There are no lots left. Demand chases a fixed supply and prices stay high. Cape Coral has room to build. Builders can bring new product to market. That keeps prices from escalating the way that they do in tighter markets. Now, the price gap between Cape Coral and Naples is not a temporary market condition. It is structural. It is built into the geography of both places. All right, number 2. Here is something most people researching the market do not know, and it explains a lot. Cape Coral has one of the highest vacancy rates of any major metro area in the United States. That sounds like a red flag, but stay with me because the reason why tells you exactly what kind of city this actually is. A significant portion of the homes here are not primary residences, they are second homes. Snowbird properties, vacation rentals, they are owned by people from Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, Ontario, even Germany, who come down here for 3 or 4 months every winter and then go back home in the spring. When April hits, those houses go dark, the lights go off, the pool goes on a timer, and from the outside it looks like an empty neighborhood. But those are not distressed properties. Those are second, well cared for homes owned by people who will be back in November. That is why the vacancy numbers look the way they do. This city was designed and marketed from day one as a waterfront lifestyle destination, not a traditional primary residence suburb. So the Rosen brothers were flying retirees down from the Northeast in the 1950s to sell them a piece of Florida. That model never changed, and it has a direct effect on the price. When a meaningful share of owners only occupy their home a part of the year, that puts different pressure on the market. It adds inventory, it creates competing rentals, it keeps prices from running the way they do in markets where everyone who owns is also living there full time. Is that a problem? Not in my view. It is part of what makes this market accessible, but it is something worth understanding because it is a real part of why the numbers look the way they do. Now, here is the other side of that same story, and this is something I am watching happen right in real time. See, the most desirable waterfront corridors in the city, the areas with direct Gulf access, on the river, the wide canals in the southwest and near the yacht club, the established boating neighborhoods, those areas are seeing something very different from the rest of the market. Buyers are coming in and they're not buying the house, they're actually buying the lot. They look at a 1960s or 1970s block home sitting on a prime waterfront lot with Gulf access and they tear it down. Then they build something significant, 5,000 square feet, resort style pool, large lanai, whole home generator, impact windows and doors, built to every current code, because the lot with that water access is irreplaceable. You cannot manufacture more of it. That is not a fluke. That is a signal. It means the land underneath those older homes in the best locations is worth more than the structure sitting on top of them. And the people making those moves are not speculating. They are making calculated, high confidence bets on where this city is going. The headline about Cape Coral is always, it's cheap. The full picture is that this market has affordable entry points and pockets of serious wealth moving in simultaneously. Now, both of those things are true right now at the same time. Once you see that, you start to read this market very differently. All right, let's jump into number 3. Part of why Cape Coral looks particularly affordable right now is that the market went through a correction after the pandemic run-up. In 2021 and 2022, prices were vertical. They went through the roof. Remote work was driving migration from the Midwest and Northeast. Inventory was tight everywhere. And Cape Coral became one of the fastest appreciating markets in the entire country. Then several things happened in sequence. Hurricane Ian hit in late 2022. Post-Ian listings flooded the market all at once. New construction kept delivering inventory. Mortgage rates climbed and stayed elevated, which pulled a lot of buyers back. The market shifted hard into a buyer's market territory and prices corrected. That correction appears to be running its course. Now, during snowbird season, January through May, closed sales in Cape Coral came in at 2,308 homes this year, compared to 2,158 the same period last year. That's a 7% increase year over year, according to the Royal Palm Coast Realtors Association. Inventory is also tightening, down over 26% year over year, the steepest decline of any major market in Southwest Florida. And homes here are selling in a median of 41 days, faster than Fort Myers, faster than Naples, faster than anywhere else in the region. The market is not broken, it reset. And for a buyer coming in today, that reset means more selection, more negotiating room, and more realistic sellers than this market has offered in years. Now, the city's own projections put the population at around 260,000 people by 2030, up from 242,000 today. The demand base supporting this market is not going away. Part of why Cape Coral looks cheap right now is that you are buying at the end of a correction, not at a peak. That is a meaningful distinction. All right, let's jump into number 4. Now, here is the part I want you to pay close attention to, because this is where buyers from the Midwest get caught off guard more than anywhere else. Cape Coral is priced lower than comparable Gulf Coast markets, in part because owning a home here costs more on a monthly basis than owning a similar home back in Illinois or Indiana. And the biggest reason for that is insurance. This is a waterfront city on a peninsula. Most of the city sits in what FEMA designates as a special flood hazard area. That means many homeowners here carry 2 policies, a standard homeowners insurance policy and a separate flood insurance policy. The Lee County average for homeowners insurance is around $3,600 a year as of 2025. For canal front and waterfront homes, that number moves depending on the age of the home, the roof of condition, the flood zone, and how close you are to open water. Now, flood insurance in Lee County averages around $1,100 a year, though your specific number depends on your property's elevation and flood zone designation, among other things. So when you are comparing a $400,000 home in Cape Coral to a $400,000 home in Columbus, those are not the same monthly costs. The Cape Coral home has meaningfully higher insurance built into the carrying cost. This is part of why the purchase price is lower. That is not a reason to walk away. It is a reason to go in with clear eyes. Here is the guidance that separates a smart buyer from a frustrating one. The homes with the highest insurance burden are typically older homes built before 1993, homes with older roofs, properties in the highest risk flood zones, and homes that sit low relative to current flood elevation requirements. Those are also often the homes with the lowest purchase prices, and that is not a coincidence. The homes with the lowest insurance costs are newer construction, built to current Florida building codes, homes with elevated foundations, impact windows and doors, and new roofs. New construction has been benefiting from updated FEMA flood maps and stricter building standards that came into effect in late 2022. Those homes are carrying lower flood insurance costs than older inventory. Before you close on anything here, you need to know the specific flood zone of that property. You need an elevation certificate, you need to get insurance quotes during the due diligence period, not after. And you need a realtor who is going to get you that information up front as part of the process, not hand it to you as homework after you are already committed. So let's land the plane here. Cape Coral is more affordable than the rest of coastal Florida for 4 reasons. The land supply is larger, so builders can keep adding inventory, and prices cannot run the way they do in build-out markets. The ownership base is heavily seasonal and second home driven, which keeps more inventory in the market year-round. Now, the market corrected hard from pandemic highs and is in the process of recovering, and the cost of carrying a home here is higher than back home, which is reflected in the lower purchase price. Some of that affordability gap is permanent. Some of it is a window that will not stay open forever. What it adds up to is that you can buy a waterfront lifestyle in Cape Coral at a price point that does not exist anywhere else on the Gulf Coast. A canal home with a dock and a pool in a city with 400 miles of waterways and year-round boating weather for a fraction of what Naples or Sarasota would charge you for the same thing. Now, the people who are buying lots in the best waterfront corridors are building custom homes from the ground up, are making the same calculation with a lot more zeros attached. The question is not really whether Cape Coral is a good value. The question is whether it is the right fit for you, your timeline, and your budget when you include the full cost of ownership. That is a different conversation, and it's a more useful one. If you want to have that conversation, I do a complimentary strategy calls, and I want to educate you on what that actually means. It is not a sales call. It is not me trying to get you to buy something. It is a real conversation built around your specific situation, what you're trying to accomplish, what your timeline looks like, what your budget actually is when you factor in insurance, taxes, and carrying cost, and whether Cape Coral genuinely makes sense for where you are headed. I have had that conversation with a lot of people who found this video the same way you did. Midwesterner who had the same questions you have right now, who wanted straight answers before they could make a move this big. Some of them bought here, some of them decided it was not the right fit for them. Either way, they left that call knowing exactly where they stood. The link to book is right below this video. It takes about 30 seconds to grab a time. If Cape Coral is on your radar, that call is the most useful 30 minutes you will spend on this decision. That is all I have got for you today, so go ahead and book that call.